sampai di kampus. Barusan saya telepon dan sekarang mungkin sedang bersiap ya untuk masuk ke link. Silakan dibuka saja dulu, eh, Ibu Soraya.
Baik, terima kasih Ibu Dekan. Well, all the participants will start the international seminar right now. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Welcome to today's international seminar. Your Excellency Professor Dedan Ramdan, Director of the University of Medan Area, Your Excellency Dr. Eviati Juliana Hasibuan, the Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences of the University of Medan Area, Your Excellency Mrs. Ade Indriani Zuhri, the Chairperson of Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, Your Excellency Mr. Hendra Hasibuan, the Chairman of DPW Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, Sumatera Utara, the Honorable Mrs. Zainab PhD from Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, the Honorable Dr. Novita Wulandari, the Head of Government Science Study Program, the Honorable Mr. Uriel Arif Lubis, the Chairman of the International Seminar, the Honorable our speakers in this seminar, Mr. Nick Cooper, the General Secretary of Asia Pacific Green Federation, Mrs. Sue Hee Lee, the Convener of Asia Pacific Federation, Green Federation for Women Network, Mr. Tika Kamal Bandari, the Co-Convener of Asia Pacific Green Federation, Mr. Akar Sri Ramoju, the Convener of Asia Pacific Green Federation for Youth Network, Mrs. Ade Indriani Zuhri, the Chairperson of Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, and all the steering committees and the participants of today's international seminar. Praise be upon Allah Almighty, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us mercy and His blessings so we can meet together and gather in this event. And all prayers are presented to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has brought us to the bright era. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the international seminar entitled The Role of Youth in Indonesian Democracy and Politics, Learning from Asia Pacific Countries. This seminar is presented as a collaboration among the Government Science Study Program of the Faculty of Social Sciences and Political Sciences of University of Medan Area, Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, and Asia Pacific Green Federation. It is an honor for the University of Medan Area, particularly for the Government Science Study Program, trusted to host this outstanding event. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Soraya Dinamika, who will be the master of ceremony of today's event. In this remarkable moment, let me inform you about the arrangement of today's agenda. The first agenda is singing the Indonesian national anthem, followed by March of University of Medan Area. The second agenda is the activity report by the chairman of the international seminar. The third is the welcoming remark by the Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Science of University Medan Area. The fourth is welcoming remark by the chairman of DPW Sarekat Hijau Indonesia from Sumatera Utara. The fifth is opening remark by the rector of the University of Medan Area. And the sixth agenda is reciting prayer. The seventh agenda is presentations and speech by all of the invited speakers. The eighth is conclusion and closing of this international seminar. So, ladies and gentlemen, to shorten the time, now we proceed to the first agenda. The first agenda is singing the Indonesian national anthem, followed by March of University Medan Area. Please have yourself ready for the Indonesian national anthem.
Open your mic, Ibu Soraya.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to our national anthem and March of Ummah. The second agenda is listening to the activity report by our chairman of this international seminar, Mr. Uriel Arif Lubis. So for Mr. Uriel Arif Lubis, the time is yours. Please, Mr. Uriel Arif Lubis.
Oke, baik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, Professor Dr. Dadan Ramdan, Director of the University of Medan Area, The Excellency Dr. Eviati Juliana Sibuan, the Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Science of the University of Medan Area, Your Excellency Mrs. Ade Indriani Juhri, the Chairperson of Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, The Excellency Mr. Hendra Hasibuan, the Chairman of DPW Sarekat Hijau Indonesia Sumatera Utara, the Honorable Mr. Saina, PhD, from Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, the Honorable Dr. Novita Wulandari, the Head of the Government Science Study Program, the Honorable our speaker in the seminar, Mr. Nick Cooper, the General Secretary of Asia Pacific Green Federation, Mr. Tika Kamal Bandari, the Co-Commander of Asia Pacific Green Federation, Mrs. Suhili, the Convener of Asia Pacific Green Federation for Women Network, Mrs. Adi Indriani Juhri, the Chairperson of Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, and Mr. Arkas Sri Ramoju, the Convener of Asia Pacific Green Federation for Youth Network, and all the steering committees and participants. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the international seminar entitled The Role of Youth in Indonesia, Democracy and Politics, Learning from Asia Pacific Countries. This seminar is presented as a collaboration among the Government Science
Recording in progress.
the Faculty of Social Science and Political Science, University of Medan Area, Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, and Asia Pacific Green Federation. I'm Uriel Arif Lubis, is feeling so honorable to be trusted to become the chairman of the international seminar. On this occasion, I would like to express my gratitude to the board of the Faculty of Social Science and Political Science, University of Medan Area, especially to the Government Science Study Program, to Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, Asia Pacific Green Federation, and to all steering committees for arranging this seminar to happen today. As the chairman, I would like to inform you that this seminar is joined by more than 200 participants that come from various layers of people, from the general public, senior, high school students to university students. It shows that the enthusiasm from our youth generation is quite high to join this seminar. In addition, this seminar is expected to improve our young generation self-quality so they could take a role in the politics and democracy world in the future. They could take compare politics, democracy from other Asia Pacific countries because our young generation is our future leader. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all of my report related to the international seminar. And I do hope that this seminar will run smoothly and successfully. And all the information or knowledge that this seminar delivers would be beneficial for our youth, especially for Indonesian youth. I'm Uriel Rubis, hoping the best for this event. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi buat kita semuanya.
Thank you very much for Mr. Uriel Arif Lubis, the chairman of this international seminar, for delivering the activity report in this occasion. Now, distinguished participants, let's proceed to the third agenda, the welcoming remark delivered by Mrs. Dr. Eviati Juliana Hasibuan as the Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences of the University of Medan Area. To Mrs. Dean, screen and time is yours.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera bagi semuanya. Alhamdulillahi wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawala wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa ashhadu anna Sayyidina Muhammadin abduhu wa rasuluh la nabiyya ba'dah. Amma ba'du. Alhamdulillah, let us praise and thank the presence of Allah the Almighty for the abundance of grace and the joy that all of us can still gather in this place and still in a good health. not forgetting the salawat and greetings we power out to the Prophet Muhammad, who has brought us from the dark ages to the era of bright light today. May we all get intercession on the end. Firstly, I would like to thank the Honorable Rector of Universitas Medan Area, Professor Dr. Dadan Ramdan, Master of Engineering, Master of Science, who has set aside time to attend and give opening remarks in this webinar, and the Honorable Head of Government Science Study Program, Dr. Novita Wulandari, the Honorable Chairman of International Webinar, Mr. Uriel Arif Lubis, Assos MEP, the Honorable all of the speakers on this webinar, the keynote speaker, Mr. Nicholas Cooper, as the General Secretary of Asia Pacific Green Federation, Mrs. Ade Indriani Zuhri Ansos as a chairperson of Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, Mr. Akash Sri Ramoju, Youth Network Convener of APGF, Mr. Tika Kamal Bandari, co-convener of APGF, Mrs. Su Hee Lee, Women's Network Convener of APGF. I would like to thank to the honorable participants of this webinar consisting of lecturers and researchers, representatives of political parties, teachers and students, and the general public that we cannot mention one by one. Well, this webinar was held with the aim of strengthening participants' understanding of the importance of the role of youth in the life of political democracy in Indonesia. This needs to be done as an anticipatory step where in 2024, Indonesia as a democracy country will again conduct general elections, and the election supervisory board has predicted that young voters consisting of the millennial generation and Z generation aged between 19 to 37 years old in the upcoming 2024 election could reach 60% of all Indonesian voters. However, ironically, based on the result of Center for Strategic and International Studies survey, young Indonesian voters still have very low political participation, where they rarely follow political news and rarely join any political organization too. And on the other side, the political parties as the participants in the elections actually will begin to compete each other to win the sympathy of young voters. Will they be just spectators only or active participants? Of course, we hope that this webinar can foster awareness, concern, and public initiative, especially the participants, about the importance of political participation among young people. And we expect the sharing experiences from Asia Pacific countries as well as the title of this webinar. We also need to convey that this webinar was held because of the cooperation between the Government Science Study Program and Sarekat Hijau Indonesia. It has signed a Memorandum of Understanding and Memorandum of Agreement. We hope that in the future there will be another implementation of other activities and on ongoing basis. Finally, thank you for the participations of the participants in this webinar and the committee who have worked well. I, as the Dean of Social and Political Faculty, would like to express my deepest gratitude. Happy webinar, best wishes for all of us. We hope that this webinar can enlighten, young people to give participation in 2024 elections in order to choose leaders with high integrity and good moral character. Thank you very much. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for Dr. Eviati Juliana Hasibuan, who is our Dean of Faculty of Political Science and Social Science of Medan Area University. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for the next agenda, we'll proceed to the welcoming remark delivered by Mr. Hendra Hasibuan, the Chairman of DPW Serikat Hijau Indonesia, Sumatera Utara. To Mr. Hendra Hasibuan, the time is yours.
Open your mic, Hendra.
Ya, terima kasih. Mohon maaf saya dalam kata-kata sambutan ini berbahasa Indonesia ya. Nanti di apa? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang terhormat Rektor Universitas Medan Area, Profesor Dr. Dadan Ramdan, MN, MSc. Yang terhormat Dekan Visipol Universitas Medan Area, Dr. Eviati Juliana Hasibuan, MSI. Yang terhormat Sekretaris Asia Pacific Green Federation, Naik Koper. Yang terhormat para pembicara seminar, moderator, rekan-rekan Civitas Akademis Universitas Medan Area, dan para peserta yang ikut dalam acara seminar pada hari ini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam lestari dan sejahtera. Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, dan kawan-kawan peserta seminar yang saya hormati. Kita tahu bersama bahwa tahun 2024 mendatang, Indonesia akan kembali melaksanakan pemilihan umum. Uniknya, dalam pemilihan tahun 2024 ini akan mengalami bonus demokrasi, di mana usia pemilih pemula dan pemuda akan mengalami kenaikan secara angka. Sayangnya minat dan partisipasi pemuda dalam politik masih cukup rendah. Bapak, Ibu, dan peserta sekalian, pandangan pemuda akan politik yang buruk mempengaruhi keinginan untuk terjun menjadi politisi. Banyak drama politik yang dipertontonkan oleh para politisi yang akhirnya mempengaruhi penilaian dan ketertarikan mereka di bidang politik. Oleh karena itu, Serikat Hijau Indonesia menyadari tidak mudah untuk membangun kepercayaan kaum muda untuk aktif dalam berpolitik. Oleh karenanya, sejak tahun 2016 lewat Sekolah Politik Hijau, Serikat Hijau Indonesia telah berkomitmen melakukan pendidikan kepada kader-kader SHI, Serikat Hijau Indonesia, dan mempersiapkan mereka untuk aktif di dunia politik, baik sebagai pengamat politik, pelayan politik, dan pelaku politik. Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, dan kawan-kawan peserta seminar sekalian yang saya hormati. Kami dari Serikat Hijau Indonesia berterima kasih banyak kepada Universitas Medan Area, khususnya kepada Fakultas Ilmu Sosial Politik yang telah menaruh kepercayaan kepada Serikat Hijau Indonesia untuk bekerja sama membangun kesepahaman akademis lewat pendidikan-pendidikan politik seperti seminar hari ini. Dan kami juga tidak lupa berterima kasih kepada Asia Pacific Green Federation telah bersedia mendukung seminar internasional ini, dan kepada seluruh peserta yang hadir secara online. Saya juga mengucapkan terima kasih dan selamat mengikuti seminar hari ini. Akhir kata, saya mau mengutip salah satu ungkapan dari kawan kita di Serikat Hijau Indonesia. Jangan takut berpolitik, karena hakikat berpolitik itu sebenarnya adalah baik. Billahi fisabilil haq, fastabiqul khairat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opening remark from Mr. Hendra Hasibuan, who is the chairman of DPW Serikat Hijau Indonesia, Sumatera Utara. Last but not least, we'll be hearing the opening remark by Professor Dadan Ramdan, the rector of the University of Medan area. To Mr. Rector, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala anbiya wa mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Rabbi sholli sadri wa yassir amri wa hlul lisani yafqahu qawli. The Honorable Mr. Nick Cooper, General Secretary, Pacific Green Federation, and then the Honorable Ms. Suhili, Union Network Convener of Pacific Green Federation, and then the Honorable Mr. Tika Kamal Bandari, as co-convener of Asia Pacific Green Federation, and then the Honorable Mr. Akas Sri Ramajo, your network convener of Asia Pacific Green Federation, and then the Honorable Ibu Ade Indriani Juhri, the person of Serikat Hijau Indonesia, and Mr. Hendra Hasibuan, as Serikat Hijau Indonesia, Sumatera Utara, and then the Honorable Zainab PhD, Serikat Hijau Indonesia, and also Hormati Ibu Dr. Esyati Juliana Hasibuan, Dean of Political and Social Science Faculty, Universitas Medan Area, and then Mrs. and Dr. Novita Blandari, SSDMSc, Head of Government Science Department, and also the Honorable Jurel Arif Lubis, SSC MC, Chairman of International Online Seminar today. And there are participants of Faculty of Political and Social Science International Online Seminar with entitled The Rule of Youth in Indonesian Democracy and Politics, running from Asia Pacific countries, collaboration with Asia Pacific Green Federation and Serikat Hijau Indonesia. First of all, let's say Alhamdulillah, thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for giving us good health and a great opportunity to join in this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, there are more than 3.5 billion people under the age of 30 living in the world today, the highest number in history. Yet, despite the size of the demographic and the high levels of political and social engagement among many young people, they remain one of the most underrepresented and underrepresented group in parliament. I think this is a significant problem given that some of the world's strongest challenges, this proportionality affect young people, including unemployment, and then environmental degradation, also violent conflict, displacement, and insufficient access to education. Ladies and gentlemen, harnessing the political of young people, political of young people, and promoting their participation at every level of the decision-making process in crucial state to ensure that policies addressing these challenges include the view and reflect the needs of their diverse populations. Politics in many countries in the world today is dominated by elite groups. Their wealth and privilege ensuring their path to power is unhindered. These power structures traditionally exclude people from marginalized groups who may lack the resources to reach influential position for activity or actively discriminated against when pursuing their political ambitions. Ladies and gentlemen, helping remove those barriers to participation and equipping people from across a sector of society with the skills and the knowledge networks to succeed is a key goal this one seminar. Our programming reaches out of group people, ethnic and religion, indigenous communities, people living with disabilities, and people from lower socio-economics and rural backgrounds. We know the drive the young people and people from marginalized communities have to contribute their energy to develop more stable democracies and prosperous societies. That their ideas, the leadership can help overcome many challenges facing the world today. But there are a number of barriers to inclusion. Therefore, at this seminar, approach is driven by first understanding these barriers and help people overcome the challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, one of good an issue, this is social media. The platform of digital media has particularly respect the political structure of the world. I think the public is using social media application for political participation and expression of their political opinions. Probably your participation through social media platform shows their political participation in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, I hope the material delivered by all of the speakers will increase our knowledge and awareness towards occupied with this knowledge. Works with young people and marginalized group across the world to empower them to participate, targeting their capacities, skills, interests, knowledge, networks, and connections. This requires significant innovation. The younger generation are often at the forefront of technological adaptation. The way the connects with their lives in crucial. with marginalized communities access to a platform that can help further political ambition would be limited. Required flexibility in approach to ensure in these programs have maximum impacts. Thank you so much for all the speakers and committee for your collaboration and hard work in make this webinar can be held today, and also for all the participants. May all and you always surrounded with prosperity, health, peace, and full blessing with the Almighty God Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. In the name of Allah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I open this webinar officially. Thank you for your attention and have a great international seminar. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for the exceptional opening remark from our Rector of University of Medan Area, Professor Dadan Ramdan. Well, distinguished participants, it's time for the agenda for prayers reciting that will be conducted by Mr. Hikmawan Syaputra. To Mr. Hikmawan Syaputra, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Izinkan saya berdoa menurut agama Islam, dan yang di luar dari agama Islam bisa ikut berdoa sesuai dengan agamanya yang masing-masing. Dan izinkan saya berdoa menggunakan bahasa Arab dan bahasa Indonesia. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim, Maliki Yaumiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdinas siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. La ilaha illa lahul mulkus samawati wal ardh. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, ya Rahman, ya Rahim, kami memohon kepadamu dengan segala kebaikan yang Engkau turunkan dan yang telah Engkau ajarkan kepada Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami berlindung kepadamu dari segala keburukan, kejahatan, mara bahaya yang menimpa keluarga kami dan saudara-saudara kami. Ya Allah, ya Rabb, kami mohon atas segala segenap kuasa-Mu, kasih-Mu, sayang-Mu, agar kami tetap berada di jalan-Mu dan menikmati hidup berada di jalan yang benar. Ya Allah, ya Rahman, ya Rahim, kami ini makhluk yang lemah. Kami memohon kepadamu, lancarkanlah, berkahilah acara kami ini. Jadikanlah acara kami ini memberikan dampak kebaikan bagi banyak orang, serta dapat menyiapkan generasi muda yang dapat menyongsong baldatun thayyibatun wa rabbun ghafur. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaitana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmah innaka antal wahhab. Rabbana ighfir lana wa li ikhwanina alladhina sabaquna bil iman wa la taj'al fi qulubina ghillan lil ladzina amanu rabbana innaka ra'ufur rahim. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Hikmawan Syaputra, for the prayers reciting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached at the core agenda of today's international seminar. In this session, we'll be listening to the materials and informations also presentations that will be presented by our invited speakers. The presentation will be divided into 4 sessions. The first one is keynote speech about the role of youth in Indonesian democracy and politics, learning from Asia Pacific countries, that will be delivered by Mr. Nick Cooper, the Secretary of Asia Pacific Green Federation. The second presentation will be delivered by Mr. Tika Kamal Bandari, the co-convener of Asia Pacific Green Federation. The third will be presented by Mrs. Su Hee Lee, the convener of Asia Pacific Green Federation for Women Network. The fourth will be delivered by Mrs. Ade Indriani Zuhri, the chairperson of Sarekat Hijau Indonesia. And the fifth will be presented by Mr. Akar Sri Ramoju, the convener of Asia Pacific Green Federation for Youth Network. So ladies and gentlemen, these sessions will be moderated by Mrs. Zainab, PhD, from Sarekat Hijau Indonesia. Therefore, let's us now listening to the presentations by our keynote speakers. So therefore, I invite Mrs. Zainab to moderate these discussions. To Mrs. Zainab, the screen is yours now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Soraya. Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. I will get you through this session. For this session, each speaker will be given 15 minutes to present their material. And for question and answers, we will accommodate after 3 speakers have finished giving their material. Our keynote speech for this international seminar is Nicholas Cooper, who is currently in Australia. Before his presentation, I will briefly tell you about him. He is currently the Secretary General, Asia Pacific Green Federation. Nick had an art degree at the University of Queensland and a Master of Science at the Harvard School of Public Health. Concentration of study in global health and population. Nick is a researcher and writer. He published 1 book in 2011, 3 scientific reports, and 4 peer-reviewed publications. Mr. Nick, we invite Nick to present his material with the theme, The Role of Youth in Indonesian Democracy and Politics, Learning from Asia Pacific Country. Nick, are you ready?
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Okay, Nick.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay. I can call you Nick, okay?
Please.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you to Medan Area University and Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, and of course to the assembled dignitaries and participants today. I am meeting with you on the stolen land of the Kaurna people in Australia. This land was stolen from the Indigenous people by the British, and sovereignty has never been ceded. I'm Nick Cooper, the General Secretary of the Asia Pacific Greens Federation. The Asia Pacific Greens Federation is the coming together of the green political movements stretching across our region, from Fiji in the east to the Middle East, Lebanon and Palestine in the west. It is often said that demography is destiny. But I think this is only part of the story. This slide is a population pyramid. For people who know what this is, you will understand. But this graph represents the population of Indonesia in 1980. Each of the sections is the population of people in 5-year groups. So at the bottom, we see that 7.5% of people in Indonesia were aged 0 to 4. 7.5% male, 7.5% female. and we see fewer and fewer people as the age increases. This was 1980. Since 1980, we can see that the fertility rate has decreased. The average number of children each woman is having. We also see that the infant and under 5 mortality rate has decreased, which is great. More children are living to become adults. As a result of this change in the mortality rate, the population of Indonesia has increased significantly. You see the line where we are at 2020 now, and it is expected that the population will reach the maximum at around 2060. What we have seen looks very similar to this graph if we combine it. This graph is called the demographic transition. It is something that we have seen in many countries across the world, and if you are a demographer, this graph makes you very excited. You can see the population moving from one baseline, one normal, to a new baseline or a new normal. First, we see the death rate decrease, which we have seen in Indonesia. We have seen the birth rate decrease, but a bit slower in Indonesia. And both of them even out over time again, but at a lower level. But because they do not happen at exactly the same time, we see the gap in the middle. This leads to a situation where we have more people in the middle section of the age distribution. This is referred to as a youth bulge. So the result is that this is Indonesia's population pyramid today. Well, 2020. Instead of a pyramid like this, we have moved like this. We are seeing more people who are very young or in the working ages. This provides what is called a demographic window of opportunity. And part of the role of leaders, political leaders today, is to grab this opportunity and turn it into results for Indonesia and for the population. Why? Because this is one time in Indonesia's history where there will be more people in the working ages than there are either very old or very young. In 40 years, these people who are in the working ages now will become old. So the people who are working will have to look after the old people. This is called the dependency ratio, the ratio of people who are working compared to people who are outside the working ages, old and young. For some of the people who are a bit older in the audience, and maybe some of the faculty, you will remember the story of the Asian tigers. These were 4 countries, Hong Kong, Singapore, Korea, and Taiwan. Between 1960 and 1990, their economy, their standard of living, and their human development outcomes increased significantly. Why? Because their political leaders recognized that they were going through a demographic window of opportunity. The same demographic window of opportunity that Indonesia is entering today. Keep this in mind. In 1980 and 1990, the philosopher and economist Amartya Sen created a theory called the capabilities approach. The first assertion of the capabilities approach was that freedom is key to well-being and that this should be important. The second is that development should be understood in terms of capabilities, what people can do. Over the 2 decades since then, this idea has evolved into something called the Sustainable Livelihoods Framework. Don't be scared of this chart. It is complicated, but we are going to walk through it. It is okay. The basic idea is that we all have things we want to achieve in our life. We have livelihood goals. Yeah. For some people, this will be having children, so who can look after them when they get old. For some people, this is buying an expensive car. For some people, this is traveling and meeting many people. We all have different goals. The idea of the Sustainable Livelihoods Framework is how can we turn the resources that we have into the goals that we want to achieve. But when we talk about resources, we are not just talking about money. If you look in the section here called capitals, this is the resources that we have, and there are 5. Financial is money. This one is easy. But let us also talk about social capital. Social capital is how much trust we have in each other, within our communities, between our communities and the government, between our government and other governments. The connections between people. This is social capital. Do I trust you? Would I give you a loan? Then we have physical capital, things like electricity, things like bricks to build a house, things like metal so that we can build taller buildings, or roads. Do we have roads so that our children can go to university? Human capital is things like education, skills, health, all of these things that we need. And natural capital, which is usually forgotten in politics, are things like trees. Trees that we can use to create wood to build our house. But it is also clean air. It is also clean water. And hopefully you are seeing at the moment how all of these things are related to each other. We will come back to this. So we have the capitals. We have thought about our goals, and young people are thinking about their goals as they become adults. We choose a strategy to get to where we want to go. If my goal is to buy a house, I start saving money. I start looking at the different areas. I think, oh, I will not build on that hill because the natural capital, the land, is not good, and I want to be able to farm on it as well. I turn those strategies into practice. Some of them are good and some of them are vulnerable. And I get my outcome. In 2010, I argued that there was a youth bulge occurring in the Middle East, in Egypt specifically, and that there was a similar demographic window of opportunity that Indonesia is experiencing now. And that it presented politicians with 2 choices, 2 paths that they could follow. One path would lead to peace and prosperity because there was this large group of people entering their working ages who had thought of what they wanted from life and they wanted to achieve it. If you could present them with viable and attractive opportunities that allowed them to follow those goals, that would be peace and prosperity, just like the Asian tigers in the 1960s to 1990. On the other hand, if the politicians failed to create an environment for young people that supported their livelihood strategies, that supported them, that empowered them, it would lead to unrest. Because a large group of young people would become dissatisfied with the status quo. And this would push them to the margins. I wrote this article in January of 2010. Around 1 month later, a university student in Tunisia set himself on fire. 2 months later, the government in Tunisia had fallen because of popular unrest. The Egyptian president had almost resigned. There was massive uprising in Syria, quite a bit in Jordan, which was kept under control, and many other countries. It was called the Arab Spring. And what were they saying? We do not have opportunities. We do not have the ability to reach our livelihood goals. So Indonesia has the same choice. Will there be a political leadership model that will provide viable and attractive opportunities for the youth of today to reach their livelihood goals, or will there be unrest and insecurity? No dictatorship lasts forever. So this brings us to the question, why green politics? Many of us are involved in green politics, so we must believe in it. What is different about green politics? Well, if we look at this chart, we notice the 5 capitals. Green politics says something about all of them. Many other politics only talk about financial. Sometimes they talk about physical. We will deliver electricity, we promise to bring it to your village. Sometimes they talk about human capital. We will give education, but they focus on only one. Or they look at one and then another one and then another one. The difference with green politics, we look at all 5 and we look at them together. It is ecological because doing one affects the other. For financial, we include welfare payments, pensions, and we also have policies that take away the need to pay for things. Greens believe in public education. We believe in public health. We believe in public ownership of assets and services that are human rights. We believe in creating social connections between people. This is about promoting democracy. This is about promoting equality. This is about equity and empowerment so that everyone feels a place in our communities and societies. We believe in physical infrastructure, quality buildings to face the climate crisis that we are in, access to green energy, access to clean water, not allowing companies to promote in our ecosystems, in our waterways, and sell us the rubbish. Human capital I have mentioned, universal education, universal health, universal access to improve ourselves. And of course, natural capital, protecting, promoting, and rehabilitating land, sea, and sky ecosystems. We do all of them, and we do all of them in a way where they work together, because we know that any intervention is more than the sum of its parts. If we lift 3 of these, we are not lifting 3 silos or pillars. We are lifting a tent so we can achieve better outcomes. So the result of green approaches is that it shapes the goals for policies, processes, and institutions. We increase capitals. We inform adaptive and sustainable livelihood strategies. We increase resilience because the more different kinds of capital and support we have, the more diversity we have, and diversity breeds resilience. And through this, we improve livelihood outcomes, both for the individual and the society as a whole. So, in Indonesia, we have a large population of young people seeking viable and attractive strategies to achieve their livelihood goals. And we have a political movement that sustainably addresses these needs. The result is that the Greens as a political movement are receiving ongoing and sustainable increases in voter support, and not just in Indonesia, but across Asia Pacific. In fact, across the world. There was a recent study on politics in the United Kingdom, I think, where they looked at different age groups of people. People who were born after the Second World War. They started out progressive and became more conservative over time in their views. Generation X, same thing happened. They were quite progressive when they were younger, but became more conservative. So the researchers said, well, what about young people today? What they found was interesting. Young people today are not getting more conservative as they get older. They are staying progressive. Why? Because progressive politics, that includes all 5 areas of capital, is the answer to many of the challenges facing young people today and the communities that we have built for the past 100 years. Communities that have increased isolation, that have increased inequality, especially financial inequality, that have exploited our natural resources, that have made our communities less about community and more like a collection of individual people. The green ideology moves us away from this into a sustainable way forward. My final point that I'll close on is, it is often said that youth are our future. Youth are not our future. They are the present. There are enormous opportunities ahead for Indonesia if Indonesia can harness the power of youth. Democracy and politics, green politics, is how we can create an environment for viable and attractive livelihood strategies. For peace, prosperity, and the planet, there's no other option. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick, for your presentation. Okay, that's from Nick that speak about Indonesian population that grows, and then we are now facing 15 and 20 years old population who are looking for work, and the government should provide opportunity for people for job seeking age, and that's make us if they don't have if the political government not able to prepare the space for the young people to achieve their goal, then they will have no defined goals. That's why Nick say green politics that focus on looking at every important aspect of people needs. It's being a best solution for the politicals in Indonesia. Okay, we are moving to the next agenda. We can hear our next speaker, Mr. Tika Kamal Bandari. Kamal, okay. Before we heard Mr. Kamal Bandari presentation, I will tell you briefly about him. He holds master degree from 2 different universities. Master of Education at Kathmandu University School of Education and Master of Science with a concentration in Environmental Science at Global Open University. Currently, he serves as a General Secretary at Fajra Foundation Nepal and General Secretary at Democratic Freedom of Human Rights Institute. Without taking more any time, please welcome Mr. Kamal?
Namaste. Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. So, thank you, Seneb, Ibu Seneb, and Ibu Shuraya for this opportunity, and Ibu Ade for this opportunity. With all the due respect to the all excellencies from Medan University and from SHI and all the Papa and Ibu from ladies and gentlemen participating in these groups. I'm very pleased to participate in this event and happy to share some of the things we have been doing in Nepal and how is it going on in case of global politics. It was nicely presented by Nick already how Indonesia is in opportunity period as there is youth windows and how old is getting this is popular in others case. So as Nick told that APGF, Asia Pacific Federations, this Asia Pacific Green Federation has got 13 full members and 8 associate members. The Green Movement started in 1972 first and which uprised in 1990s, finally got organized in 2000 in green networks and later progressed to be the APGF with Global Green Charter, including social justice, sustainability, non-violence, participatory democracy, respect for diversity, and ecological wisdom is the basic pillars which can be incorporated by every country in their in their Green Party manifesto. And then Global Greens is established, and in Global Greens there are 4 federations. Asia Pacific Green Federation is one of the federation. Another is African Green Federation, then European Green Party, and Federation of Green Parties of the Americas. And these federations all together includes 83 full members, 13 associate members, and there are 2 partners. That is, one is Global Young Green and another is Taiwan FV Greens. And the informations are available in Asia Pacific Green Federation.org and globalgreens.org also. Currently in Global Greens, Bob Hill is co-convener and Gloria Blanco and Frank Sweden is the secretary. And in APGF also, Ade Jusre is co-convener with me, and I myself is co-convener. Iram Salim from Pakistan is deputy convener, and Ether Lansdale is treasurer. Nick, who spoke earlier, Nick Cooper is a general secretary, and the councillors from each party represents here. And as I mentioned here, 13 full member, 8 associate members, and there are partners, APOIGM, Women Network, LGBT+, and there are many activities based on IDC, study tour, our meetings, and everything in APGF. So talking about all these things, what I'd like to focus here at this moment is, let me stop sharing this first. At this moment is the opportunity provided to the youth, and utilizing their strengths is the key function in politics we need to do. We know that being in developing countries like Nepal or in Indonesia or others, we are in such a period where these youth population can be the best human capital to take our country for the further development. And it seems that there have been opportunity provided, and the mere opportunity is given in such a way that the population will not bring the unrest in political situation in country. Rather, they will take that opportunity and try to make their livelihood in such a way that they can survive there, but country will not progress. That will help the ruler of this time to rule the country in such a way that they can hold it for longer time. We can see for Australia, New Zealand, or other developed countries that the leadership keep changing in every 5 to 10 years period, and they are coming with several strategies and plans so that country is progressing in such a way. For us, the leaders who are leading, they feel that that is their career. They are doing career politics, and they have been ruled by either they have been captured by a limited group of businessmen or limited group of elite politician who are doing running it as like their own business or their own property, so that they are ruling for 30 years, 40 years, and we people have been also trained in such a way that, oh, the previous leader who have been leading for 10 years or 15 years was better than this. So that we keep voting for similar pattern of the leader, and the 3 or 4 leaders keep leading the country for such long period of time, and they are doing it as a career politics only. As there is almost 60% of youth population in Asian countries at this period of time, if this population is managed well, and if these youths are already enough in such a way that the line which is very popular among the youth is, I hate politics, I hate politics, or we hate politics, we don't want to be in politics. And many times we debate that the one who has got good meritocracy is going to either university or public administration or for the job, and who has not got the good academics, they are in the politics in such a way that they are ruining the politics. So these youth groups, we have to attract them to say that politics is everything. Everything is ruled by politics. So being in politics is helping their country to develop in such a way that we want. So our effort should be to attract, to motivate youth to be in politics. And we Greens believe that the business or financial development of financial sector is not only the opportunity we have got, but there are several things we have to keep track on: the environmental issues, the saving the planet, keeping things for our upcoming generation as much as possible in similar way we have received from our ancestor is our focus also. The livelihood we are making at this moment and the opportunities we are getting at this moment, and especially in Asian country, is just how much is granted in such a way that we will be satisfied and will not bring types of unrest which will protect their ruling. So let's motivate youth around the region, youth from Indonesia also, to come in the politics, direct politics, in such a way that we can make this public ownership possible from few elite private ownership, and bring them in politics such a way that the green values will be addressed well as how we wish. thank you so much for this opportunity, and will be available for anything, any questions later on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tika Kamal Bandari, for the presentation. Mr. Kamal stated that Nepal and Indonesia have large youth population, so government must be providing opportunity to youth to be active in political activities. Youth must be feel that they are taking part in political activity. Therefore, this Asia Pacific Green Federation can be used as one of the platform for youth political movement. We already have the research. That's how we use that research to make our youth understand how to have the political movement. Okay, Mr. Kamal Bandari, thank you. And next, for next speaker is Mrs. Suhili. Okay, before Mrs. Suhili start her presentation, I will briefly telling about her. She obtained her master's degree in art with a concentration in cultural anthropology studies at Yonsei University. Her activities are mainly related to the environmental and the role of women. Currently, she is the co-convener of the Asia Pacific Green Federation's Women's Network and co-chair of the International Committee Green Party Korea. Mr. Suhili? Mrs.
Hello.
Suhili, hi, Suhi. Mrs. Suhili, you can start your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I am Soo-hee Lee from Korea, and I'm one of the co-conveners of the Asia Pacific Greens Federation Women's Network. I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Universitas Medan area and Sarekat Hijau Indonesia for their invitation to this wonderful webinar. So I am going to share my screen. Hopefully, there you go. Okay, can everyone see the screen? Very good. Okay. All right. So before everything, I would have to warn you that I will be using the word Asia Pacific Greens Federation, Asia Pacific Greens Federation Women's Network a lot, many times. This is because today's presentation is focused on introducing what I've learned through my work with the Federation and the Women's Network. So that I don't confuse you much, I am going to share the acronym and the website for your reference. Also, I won't be sharing the presentation itself. However, I will share links to information on the Zoom chat throughout my presentation. You will be bombarded with links, but just know that these are for references. I am a member of Green Party Korea, which is of two green political networks. One is the Asia Pacific Greens Federation, and the other is the Global Greens. My party, APGF, and the Global Greens all recognize that without equality between men and women, no real democracy can be achieved. For the next 15 minutes, I will go over some issues that are dealt with when women begin or engage in politics, such as gender quota, candidate selection, fundraising, and campaigns. I am going to admit that the time given to me is not sufficient to cover everything in detail. So today's presentation will be a very general overview of what women usually encounter when they begin or when they engage in politics. When women compose a large portion of the population, we still see more men in politics than women. We know that this is not because women are less qualified. We know that it is not because women do not want to run in politics. An important system we need to talk about is that we need to understand that women's political participation is something that we all have to really consider into when it comes to our party politics, or when it comes to political science, when it comes to community work. This is because political participation of women is the only way to achieve gender equity and democracy. Now, we need to talk about this system called the gender quota. The gender quotas may be introduced at any level of the political system, federal, national, regional, or local government, and also in party levels. Having reserved seats for only one or for very few women is no longer considered sufficient in many countries and parties. This is because this does not reflect women's diversity. Today, quota systems aim at ensuring that women constitute a large minority of 20, 30, or 40, or even to ensure a true gender balance of 50-50%. Many Green parties in the Asia Pacific are adopting gender equity in leadership. It is recommended that there is a structure which enshrines a leadership position and roles to be shared between men and women. In case there is no shared position, there is at least a mix of men and women in those conditions. In Green parties such as India Greens Party and the Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand, leadership position must have one female and one of any other gender. This is a long-awaited radical step. It is not one male and one female, or one male and one other gender. It is one female and any other gender. They are not saving seats for women, but saving seats for men and other genders. This guarantees women's role in leadership. The same rule applies when selecting candidates for party or public elections. 50% of any election candidate list should be filled in by women. It also says that women must be prioritized candidates in seats where they are actually likely to win. This is to avoid treating women as token or paper candidates. So why do we need an equitable candidacy allocation process? Why do we need women represented in the candidate selection or recruitment process? This is because although there are eligible women candidates, fewer women than men aspire to be in politics for reasons men turn blind eyes to. And even fewer women are actually nominated in parties. This is a system that filters women when they should not be. Women need to be involved throughout the entire process, from pre-selection, searching, nomination to candidate selection. This is very critical to guarantee equal and fair opportunity for women to be identified, encouraged, empowered, be trained, and be elected as a politician or women active in politics. APGF recently drafted internal policies on candidate selection process and gender quota. I would share the policy links. You can use the policies as templates for your groups and parties. As well. Having women run in politics require more than changing the law. Law, constitution, and rules are important. However, we need to make ways so that women candidates receive the information, training, and funding from the national party, state party, different committees within the party, and networks. A party's women's network is the best agent to initiate and monitor these support, making sure they are implemented. APGF's Women Network has developed a gender equity toolkit which women and a party could use to organize a women's network within a party, reinvigorate the network, help the women's network inform and train their women on political participation. This is Kristen Mill, former leader of the Australian Greens. As a woman and a mother she and a woman participating in politics and leading a party, she had her difficulties. APGFWN invited her to share her story. I will share the link of her webinar in the chat because she really goes into detail about what kind of help she needed when she began when she began her career in politics. In our webinar, she talked about when it comes to becoming a candidate, become a politician, becoming a woman in politics, you have to identify who your allies are. You need to know people, civil organizations, expert groups who you can work with and seek support from. You can reach out to them by engaging in community and organizing community events and organizing different events. Here, I really want to emphasize that participating in politics can never be done alone. You need a network of people to work with. You need people to help you. They can be lawyers and fundraisers, but they can also be your neighbors, family, friends, who bring you food, who pick up your kids after school, who take care of your family when you need help. So we can seek all the help that we need in order for us to go into politics. I know that this, therefore, could discourage some women because we have double burden of the housework, care work, childcare and everything. However, we have to understand that when parties, communities, societies, and networks of friends and allies, when all the help that we can get are there, we are so capable of engaging in politics and becoming that leader. Now, there are many issues women can use their voices for. For instance, in December of last year, Indonesia government passed a revised criminal code that targets specific demographic and that violates marriage rights, freedom of expression, and human rights. Women can engage in political movements and run an election as a candidate who can focus on this issue. As such, if you are to engage in politics, it is good to see what you want to work on. This is especially so if you want to run in an election. You run a campaign talking about misogyny, domestic violence, equal education, or other issues. It's important for you and your team to understand that you are just one candidate. You cannot talk about everything, even if you want to. So you have to be strategic when it comes to identifying what campaign agendas that you want to work with first. Of course, you do not have to focus on women's issue just because you're a woman. It is important that you identify your issue and focus on something so that your voters can relate to you and understand your message. I will share a link about that contains information and policies on women's issue and other green issues. You could talk about, climate crisis, justice, welfare, electoral reform, and everything. So just because you're a woman, you don't have to talk about women's issue or gender issue. You can talk about a lot of different things, but it's important for you to understand that you have to sort of pick what you want to pitch first, and then as your political career develops, you can sort of work with others who have worked in other areas that you are interested in, and include that in your agendas as well. For women to engage in politics, we need funds. If you are a member of a party or a group that has paid membership, you can negotiate with your party or group to allocate a sum of the membership fee to your work. Or you could launch a fundraising event like concerts, bake sales, book signing events, issue-focused discussions, and etc. Or you could use digital platforms to create an online crowdfunding page or seek funding from grants and other organizations who share your passion. There are many tasks to handle when it comes to raising funds. Of course, you have to raise the funds and then manage the funds transparently. In so doing, you have to know how to clearly write and convey your messages. You have to identify your present and future donors, try to accumulate and try to collect their contact information and identify whether they would like to be called for every event, or whether you would have them on different lists so that they will only be called for specific issue or agenda. Also, you have to work with other women or other people who are working on the issue. So fundraising itself is a very big issue that requires training, for multiple days. But I just wanted to emphasize this here, that I really hope that fundraising itself does not discourage you just because you do not have the fund right now, or at the moment with immediately in your community. That doesn't mean that you cannot be active in politics. There's so many other things that you can do. And then once you build network of friends and allies, and once you get to know more people who have more information about different grants or different funding opportunities, then what you have developed and what you have envisioned thus far could one day, with that fund, be realized. Then there's the election campaign. Now, I want you to know that I'm talking about all this because today's presentation was focused on encouraging young women to participate in politics. So sometimes I would talk about, the issues that you need to talk about, some others. Now, and sometimes I would talk about how you can build your women's network. Now, this section is to encourage some of you in this call to actively seek your candidacy in your community for the upcoming election. APGFWN is proud to introduce a few examples among many where Green women ran her local district elections. The first is Kando Akiko from Greens Japan, who won a seat in the Tokyo Metropolitan Assembly in 2021. The second is Rachna from Nepali Greens, who ran in a local election as a young woman candidate in 2017. And third is Aram Salim from Pakistan Green Party, who is running in the local election. Her election had been postponed and then had to be rescheduled. Now she continues, despite that elongation of schedules, she continues to seek candidacy, and she continues to work as a candidate for her party. So I've given you real examples of people who are running in elections as a green young woman. Now, for an election campaign, you have to organize meetings, you have to meet people, you have to, talk about, what you want to do in your campaign. Also, you have to hone skills of public speaking. Your team should manage press, interviews and social media platforms up to date, and make sure to have strategies against online trolls and other backlashes. And also how you would portray yourself in front of the media is significant discussion to have with your campaign team. Politics and media would want to shape you, a young woman or woman, in ways they are comfortable with. However, if you want to make your stand and be a radical woman politician, you need to figure out how to represent you, your identity, and your issue in front of the camera, which takes a lot of practice. And also, depending on your social and political situation and culture, you could visit your constituents face to face and have time to discuss about your campaigns. It could give you a chance to know what your voters want, what you need to do, and persuade people who do not know you to vote for your issue. Another thing to keep in mind is that the possible violence you will encounter during your campaign on streets or online. I'm a member of Korean Greens. Korean Greens, during election time, we have to select 50% of our candidates in the election to be women, and 50 other as men and other gender. Now, women and non-male gender, when they're out on the street campaigning for their cause, they are often they hear things, they encounter people, they are physically pushed, which, male candidates would not. We had to go through trainings where not only the candidates, but the campaign team will be trained on, if that happens, then these are the drills that you have to take. You could basically ignore them, but just ignoring is not going to fix anything. Now you would have to sort of look around and see what kind of help you can get. You would have to record everything that's happening so that you would have some kind of backup material when it comes to like legal disputes, or if you invite law enforcement to solve this problem. So those kind of trainings are also important. It is important that you know your local laws and talk with legal experts on what steps to take in case you're attacked, either verbally or physically, as said earlier. Also, violence can happen within your campaign team as well. Most people that we work with within the Green Party and Green Movement are good people, but there are going to be exceptions. And I really hope that case alone do not discourage you to stop your engagement in Green Movement. We have to work on it, fight, and we have to make sure those who attacked you are punished. We need regulations, procedures, so that everyone knows, what to do when things like that happen. APGFWN also had its election campaign training called She Will Run. You could contact me, or through ADE, or APGF homepage or website if you want to learn more about election campaign training. So I'm just going to leave my contact info just in case you are interested. Now, that's the end of my presentation on women in politics. I know this was very general, and there could be many questions, or some of the things are something that you already know, but I hope that this is a beginning of interaction between Green Youth in Indonesia and APGFWN. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Suhili. Okay, that's from Suhili, the role and involvement of women in politics. It is important for all women to be able to know their networks and supporters to enter the politics, because democracy will not be achieved if there is no equality between women and men in politics. Okay, that was our last speaker from first session. For this session, we will have a question from 2 participants? We are waiting question. Please raise your hand, or you can open your mic and speak. You can also write it on chat box if you want to ask some question. After Nick and Mr. Kamal and Mrs. Suhili presentation, okay.
Oke, partisipan semuanya boleh melalui chat ya, Bu Zainab ya?
Boleh dalam bahasa Inggris dan dalam bahasa Indonesia boleh ya.
Oke.
Pertanyaannya. Nanti kita translate. Jadi pertanyaannya boleh dalam bahasa Indonesia ya, boleh dalam bahasa Inggris.
Silakan Bapak Ibu, bila ada pertanyaan nanti akan kita lihat pertanyaan terbaik dan akan mendapatkan reward dari panitia seminar ya. Silakan.
Atau next aja dulu, nanti open semuanya.
Oke, bagi yang ingin bertanya, bisa nanti di chat box juga boleh ya, sambil kita lanjut ke presentasi berikutnya. Oke, next presentation is from Mrs. Ade Indriani Suhri. Okay, before she start her presentation, I will tell you briefly about her. Currently, Mrs. Ade is the chairperson of Sarekat Hijau Indonesia and an expert for the Minister of Village Development and Disadvantaged Regions and Transmigration of the Republic of Indonesia for the period 2022 and 2024. She earned her master's degree in political economy at National University Indonesia and is currently a PhD candidate for the political study program at the same university. Mrs. Ade, please can start your presentation.
Thank you, Nena. Can share my presentation, please? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for Medan Area University to invite me as a speaker and for others, my friends speakers. And this program collaboration with the Medan University and supported by Asia Pacific Green Federation. And okay. Okay, my presentation will I will discuss about the role of youth in Indonesia, democracy and politics from Indonesia experiences. And next. And this is the background of the international seminar and what we have done as a green movement or green organization in Indonesia contribute for the value of greens and political dynamic in Indonesia. In the 2024 election is planned to be held on February 14, 2024, with 24 political parties that have been determined by the General Election Commission in Indonesia, consisting of 18 national parties and 6 local parties, which are in the province of Aceh. We have a privilege. We have 6 local parties and only in Aceh province. This election is a little different because it's joined by several new parties which are expected to give a more significant color change. Political parties that are currently trying to gain public sympathy by presenting various issues of justice and welfare, which openly express their interests. Unfortunately, the issues presented are old and conventional and have no direct interest in intergenerational affairs. So that's why now no anyone or only a little bit young collaborate or join in politics or public area. The 2024 election is an election in which the number of voters in the productive age range of 15 until 64 years will dominate. The number reached 191,170,000 resident on 67.9% of the total population. Young voters will color the 2024 general election. So it is inevitable the politician will target the productive age population to enliven the political scenes in the Indonesia Democracy Party. Will you take full control of the 2024 election, or will they only be used and mobilized for the interest of votes? Therefore, to see the position of young people who have a very important role in politics and democracy in Indonesia as well as welcoming the 2024 general election, Sarekat Hijau Indonesia to promote green value, which are the basis for thinking and acting. You can see in the picture of the site, we have 6 political green school and 6 province in Indonesia, established since 2016. We teach and produce more green politicians in Indonesia to color political dynamic in Indonesia, contribute to politics as a politician, as a watch, and as also active in the public area. Especially first-time elections, so that can become the great power of change in. And Indonesia youth are expected to have logical skill with a rational basis to choose party or politicians who bring change, not add to the burden of democracy to become acute. Next. And participation in politics needs. And the 2024 election is the years of youth. As the age of the majority of voters, youth hold a high political bargaining position with political parties. So this is the opportunity for the youth because youth have a really important position in the political area now. So many parties will join and collaborate with the youth and involved with the youth activities in Indonesia. So why youth not influence the party to make the change with the dynamic political situation in Indonesia? Take a role in politics as a politician or general election commission members, election watch into institution or others. This is important also, like a student from the university or a young lecturer from the university or others. Activities of youth can be collaborate with the General Election Commission as a member, and also and provide some data for the General Commission election, or some of data for increase the politician capacity. Youth will influence program related to social issues, education, digital transformation, women and kids problem. And this is why Suhi mentioned about the why need to increase capacity of youth, especially for the women participation, because youth know well about the new issues in the world. It's like the digital transformation, where the old school is not really know anymore about the new issues, and also the specific issues like a women and kids problem. And youth also have motivate and can influence some of teenagers, some of adults to have a collaboration program to increase some of politician capacity. And Indonesia needs young leader with visionary insight. And this is important because if you watch television and read the newspaper or Twitter or Facebook and other social media information, we not see the young leaders anymore as leaders, new leaders in Indonesia. We also see the old school politician no have a new issue, no have a interest with the new social issue in Indonesia. They only talk about the economy, all economic. They talk about the power. They talk about the how to getting the voters, but they not discuss about the how to increase, how to perform, how to promote, and how to collaborate with the some of youth or some of people to increase skill and to color of the political situation in Indonesia. Next. I think it's next. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. And this is important why SHI contribute to youth political activities in Indonesia. In 2016, we established for Indonesia for Green Political School and collaborate with some of university in the West Java. We have a 6 memorandum of understanding, collaborate with 6 university in Indonesia to help Green Political School and to produce green politician. Nick mentioned already, we need for green politician because this is different value with the conventional politician. Conventional politician is talking about the money, talking about the power, not interest and focus with the how to establish with the diversity, how to working with the villagers, how to working with the some program in the rural, and they the conventional politician also talking about can I pay you as a voters? Can I pay you to support me as a politician? And so that's why green politician is different with the conventional politician. In green politician, we try to discuss, to inform, we try to discuss, to increase the capacity for the member, we try to discuss, to make collaboration with the university, we try to discuss, to getting more women participation. Political participation, political education is really important, where I think about to collaboration and to increase the skill and the information, or also the skill of the member is in Indonesia, in Sarekat Hijau Indonesia. And political education embodies the political role women in the life of society, nation, and just civil society order. And for this reason, empower women in various aspects to social culture and social life is very urgent to increase women in political roles. This is important too, because now we only see the women living in the man body. She is a woman, but it's really masculine, because the women, women politicians also talking about the abuse of power. They know have an interest with the number of women participation. They're not talking about the inclusion. They're not talking about to know anyone left from the deployment in Indonesia. They're talking like a masculine. They're talking like a man, and also this important. We have to bring the green value as our lives, our style. Therefore, women capacity. There is one of our priority issues in SHI and or Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, because number of women participating in politics still really carries really important to think, because for example in Sarekat Hijau Indonesia we only count women as a member, as and sit in the structure with our picture. It's really important to increase and have attention, have an important interest with the women capacity in overcoming the problems of marginalization of women political life. So we talk about the marginalization of women in political life. This is really important to discuss, because the patriarchy culture in Indonesia no have attention for the women to join in political. So we only see the men politician and talking, discuss, and no anyone participation from the women politician. And the political parties can play their role as political institution. This is important too, because the political parties should interest with the political education for the members, and to strengthen women participation and the member participation in the politics, both in equality and quantity. So we will promote to our member in Sarekat Hijau Indonesia to running to election 2024, and to increase the quantity and increase the quality position or participation in the politics. But in quality and quantity in general, there are 4 arguments for the importance of the expanding women's participation in the legislature, namely first task of rules related to women. This is based on the talk of the importance to having women represent in the decision-making institution and fostering confidence in the general public. And we also have a concentration or interest to young female participation. It's really worried because from the 7 province we have now, we don't have many young women participation. And also they can also participate in the decision making process, and has to do with justice in the term quantity, the representation of the women and men, the legislator must be balanced. And this is important for the young youth and female participation, youth participation to join in collaboration with the Green Party in Indonesia and involved with the Green Party, because Green Party is one of the best way to bring us to different yes, it's like a different it's like a new values for us, because in the Green Party we're not talking about the power abuse, we're not talking about the money only, but we support and we have a solidarity, we have a too many kind support for the members or the others to running or participation in the politics. And I think this is my last presentation. And for next, can you please next? Okay, thank you. And I want to share about the really nice quote from the founding father of Indonesia, namely is Sukarno. 10 youth will save the world is the really important, because if we have a 10 youth now here in the world, we can save the world. But it's if we have an old school in the world, we only have an old school in the world now, so the world is not safe. But if we have a 10 youth in the world, we can save in the world. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mrs. Ade. That's for Mrs. Ade, the role of youth in Indonesian democracy and politics from Indonesian experience. Indonesia needs young leaders with visionary. That's why participation in politics is a must. In Indonesia, Sarekat Hijau Indonesia contribution to Sarekat Hijau Indonesia youth political activity. Okay, and last but not least, Mr. Akars Sri Ramoju. Okay, before we heard Mr. Akars' presentation, I will tell you about him briefly. He obtained his master's degrees in neuroscience and cognitive science at the University of Hyderabad, and currently he works as a scientist at Perspective AI, Hyderabad, India. With his wide range of experience, he is an expert in data analysis, psychological research design, and organizational design and strategy. Okay, Mr. Akas, are you there?
Yeah, hello. Hi, everyone.
You can start your presentation.
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'll share my presentation. Just a second. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thanks for giving me this presentation. So I'm Akash Sriramoju. I'm former convener of Asia Pacific in Greens Federation. Currently, I'm trying to run for the office in this year, and I'm trying to build a campaign in my local area. And I'll give the brief experiences of what I learned in the last 1 year as a convener of APYGM. So let's begin the presentation. The role of youth in democracy and politics. As we see here, these are the headlines we come across when we read the newspaper. Half of the world's population is under 30, but they have little say of the decisions that shape their future. It's time for young people to be seen and heard in the halls of power. And there's another paper cutting like, should young people change or should politics? Another thing is, young people hold the key to creating a better future. So these all paper cuttings are especially saying about what is the role of young people in any society or any country, and also for the strengthening the democracy in their countries. So let us see the population of the young people right now. In the world, we have 7.8 billion people. Out of that, 1.2 billion people are in the age group of 15 to 24. Basically, after this 15 to 24 age group, people will be entering the working age group, which is from 25 to 54 or 60. And in Asia, if you see about our continent, 0.73 billion people are in the age group of 15 to 24, out of 4.6 billion. And here in Indonesia itself, we can see there are 44 million people out of 260 million or so the population of Indonesia. The 44 million people are in the age group of 15 to 24. And if you consider the 15 to 30 years age group, it's 65 million people. So, but this is a huge population which are in the age group of 15 to 30. As Nick mentioned, we have to utilize the power of youth, and we have to use the demographic dividend, often we call it as. In India also, we have huge demographic dividend. And in Indonesia also, we have this huge demographic dividend. But how we are going to utilize that? So let us see the broad geographic area of our world. We know that the world is divided between the global north and global south. Basically, global south are emerging economies or developing countries, and also have a common history of colonialism, which are where the global north countries came to us and they colonized our countries for 100 or 200 years, and they exploited us and extracting the resources from us, and all that happened. The tools for domination, what they utilize is colonialism. And in this modern era, in the 21st century, from the end of 20th century to till now, the other tool utilized by the global north is called neoliberalism. Basically, this neoliberalism is a variant of capitalism, but also in the combination of corruption and also oligarchy, supporting the only rich business people in their particular country and only giving the funds to them and all. So this neoliberalism right now, what we are following in most of the developing economies in India and also in Indonesia, we'll see how this has resulted in. As we know, Indonesia we got independence in 1945, and there was old order era and new order era, and right now we are going through reforming era, which is called democracy, the democratic reforms. But even the Indonesian democracy is very young; it's at 25 years old. But the problems we can see in Indonesia are very much older than the democracy, what we have. The problem of economic inequality, the inequality is growing between the lower bottom of the population, and the only 10% of the population have the higher amount of the money in their hands. And the environmental degradation is happening due to the rapid industrialization. Even Indonesia is very much vulnerable to the climate change, and it faces frequent severe climatic changes like droughts and also the floods and all. And the poverty is even increasing even after 1999, where we started the democratic reforms. Then Indonesia is able to lift much of the population from the poverty line, but still due to the increase in the population, the poverty is even now it's increasing. And the social injustice. Right now, we can see in the recent past, the government has come up with a different laws to discriminate the people based on gender or sexual orientation. And even the minorities in the Indonesia are feeling insecure right now and so many people are in the marginalized domain as well. And unemployment of the youth is another issue which is growing tremendously in Indonesia. And one more important thing, even after we get the democratic reforms of 1999, the corruption in the system is even more growing right now. But in spite of all these issues, what the people of Indonesia are facing and the youth are also suffering due to all these issues, how we can get youth engaged in the politics. Let's go to the next slide. As we see in any democracy, it may be in Indonesia or India or anywhere else, there are two pathways for the systemic change. The problems what we are facing right now, to mitigate those, we have two pathways. One route is called activism or advocacy, which we can see the most of the youth, they have took this activism or advocacy in the 1999 or 1998 to get the democratic reforms in Indonesia. That was became possible because of the youth of this nation. But there's another pathway which is less traveled by the youth of any country. In a democratic country, we can call it as, is contesting in elections. Right now, most of the youth are motivated to raise their voice through activism advocacy, but they are not able to get into the politics and contest in elections. This is a very much less traveled route. In the democracy, we have to utilize both the pathways, but most of the youth are only using the first pathway, as we can see. But how we can encourage the people to get into the politics or create the social consciousness or political consciousness among the youth. Let us see what are the barriers which are stopping youth to enter into the politics. The young people dilemma. So here we can see most of the young people in the Asia or anywhere else, they face this kind of dilemma, whether I have to go for a stable job after completing my education, or whether I have to go for an entrepreneur, or whether I have to become political leader. It's not at all in their thoughts. That becoming a political leader is a taboo right now in any nation. But most of the people, they choose this stable career as their next when they enter into the working age group, they go for this stable career. That may be because of various reasons. They have to have a better livelihood, or they have to safeguard their family, and they have to lift the family from the poverty condition to the middle class. Because of that, much of the youth, even though they have the aspirations to change the country, Indonesian country, and to change the problems what we are facing right now, they choose the stable career, but they won't become an entrepreneur to create the jobs itself and to solve the problems. And even they don't become a political leader. So how do we, why this kind of a dilemma is posed to the youth in any country, especially in Indonesia? Let us see. Because of social conditioning, what we are going through. As we see, the individuals have very much bigger aspirations. The youth have bigger aspirations. But even though having aspiration is not at all, it's only not the sole reason to enter into the politics, which gives the motivation to enter into politics. The larger context, what we create in any country. The context is created based on the two factors here, national culture and the policy making which is adopted by the current government. As we know from the psychological point of view, human behaves according to the context which they are part of. So right now, the context, the conservative context or less risk-taking context, which are created based on the cultural values of our society. This is not the sole reason in Indonesia, but it also happens in India as well, which discourages the youth to take the risk and enter into the entrepreneurship domain or political domain. The national culture plays an important role, and the policy making aspect here, the education institutions, what we have. As we know, from the primary school to the undergrad or postgraduate level, in most of the education universities or schools, the critical thinking is often not utilized. This critical thinking is not at all guided by the professors or the teachers. At most of the schools, not many. But because of this, not giving the opportunity for students to analyze the situation in critical analysis, because of that, the youth are not able to get the awareness about the social problems or political problems in our country. So because of that, they are not able to develop the social consciousness or political consciousness. Here, the education system is just became like a factory which is manufacturing the products which look like same. But each individual has a unique capabilities, as mentioned by Nick. Here we need to utilize our own capabilities to get into the politics or know about our society and all. So why this is happening? Let's see. Here, one more important thing, as Nick also mentioned, is like the social capital. Even though the individuals have the aspirations to change the country, the social capital is became another barrier. The people who are in the poverty, below the poverty line, who are poor or who are marginalized groups, who come from the marginalized group, because of the lack of social capital, because of the lack of social capital in the sense lack of funds or lack of connections and all, they are not able to become entrepreneurs or they are not able to become politicians. So as a country, as a government, we need to create an environment where this social capital is will be equal for everyone. Not that this social capital is discriminate because of their what from where they come from. If they come from the region where they don't have opportunities at all, if they come from a marginalized groups, they don't have connection at all. So because of this, because of social capital, most of the people are not able to take the risk to become entrepreneur or a politician. So a government or a society should create equal opportunity by equalizing the social capital. And based on that, what we wanted to achieve in the world is called sustainable world, sustainability, or a resilient world, we can say. So how we can achieve that? As mentioned by all other speakers, the politics should be green, which has the 6 principles and sustainability, social justice, and all, and remaining other 3 principles are part of this green. Actually, the green politics says that you are part of this Mother Earth, so you have to take care of the natural resources around you, and also you should take care of the peoples around you. The well-being of people, well-being of nature is within your hands. That's what the green politics says about. And we need to also have the progressive politics, which take care of our marginalized people and also gives the equal representation to the youth, marginalized groups, and also minorities, and also the equal representation in the work, economy, and also in the political world. So that's the progressive politics. And other important thing, which is right now very much lacking in any representative democracy, is called mitigating the corruption, which is called clean politics. The clean politics is a very backbone of any system out there. Even though if you have the green politics or progressive intention, if the corruption is going on through your system or the political party, we can't see the fruits what we visualize to achieve. So that's what, to bring a sustainable world, we need to have green, progressive, and clean politics. And by this, I end this talk. Thank you, everyone. This is the quote by Nelson Mandela. To youth of today, I also have a wish to make. Be the script writers of your own destiny and feature yourself as a stars that show the way towards a brighter future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Akas, for the presentation. Mr. Akas presented about we must be able to build our own capabilities without the influence of the culture that surround us, such the influence of social politics, and then the politics we are aiming for us is a progressive and clean politics. And that's for all the speakers. There's a question from participant. Please raise your hand. Okay, Miss Naila, please open your mic. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I direct this question to Mrs. Sohi. Okay, so opportunities and political space for women already exist, as in Indonesia. There is a quota in the legislative for women, namely 30%. However, many issues continue to haunt women, such as issue of misogynism and the patriarchal system. This is actually a problem for women, although issues related to women do not only belong to women. So how my question is, so how exactly steps should actually be designed in the political sphere to optimize the role and trust of women that not only came from the outside environment, but also to themselves as a woman? That's my question for Mrs. Sohi. Thank you.
Thank you. Should I wait for other questions or should I just answer her question first?
You can answer her question.
Okay. Now, before I answer your question, I'm really sorry, but could you rephrase your question? Because I think there were a couple points and I don't know whether I should, combine them all too or, talk about them separately.
Pertanyaannya langsung ke pertanyaannya saja.
Okay. My question is, how exactly steps should actually be designed in the political sphere to optimize the role and trust of women that not only come from the outside environment, but also to themselves as a woman? Like that. Are you understand to my question?
I think I did, but
Okay.
all right. So to rephrase your question, despite there's quota system, because of the culture and the system, we still need some sort of political design to help women to optimize their opportunity in politics, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, like that.
All right. So, and your question is, how can we do that specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Well, there's no clear-cut answer. Definitely not. But I think it really depends on how you study the woman that you want to work with, or if you're part of that group, your group in general. Every group has their unique problem that is hindering them from entering into politics or participating in politics. For one could be, the double burden of, childcare, housework, or whatever it be. Another could be just, the culture of seeing women as just, young individuals who are not ready to lead, especially if you're a young woman. So first step is to identify what specifically is the problem within your constituency, your community, your local election. Because your community could be very progressive in certain aspect, but when it comes to women's issue, they could not be. So if you identify that specific need, then it's easier for you to strategize how to approach them. Now, this also happens in Korea as well, where, we within Green Party would select somebody to be a woman candidate. But when they expose themselves as candidate, a Green candidate, they cannot engage in politics or talk about the agendas they wanted to, because there will be backlashes and people will pose questions that are irrelevant. So once you have that identified, then you have to have your team really think about how to sort of approach your voters or the people that you have to talk to. It could be people that you have to talk to when it comes to political reform. If you have to talk to your local politicians about political reform, then rather than going directly about, political reform or election reform, talk about what kind of other results that reform could bring about to the community, so that you could build that common ground of interest. Then you can sort of get to talk about it more productively rather than to just simply identify your differences. I don't know whether that helped. Would that answer your question?
Nela?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Sohili. And the next question, Okay. Nurul Hidayah, you can start your question.
Yes, thank you before for the time. And before introducing me, Nurul Hidayah, and my question directly to Mrs. Ade. So we both understand that youth play an important role in a nation. One of them can participate in the world of politics. And there have been many discourses that talk about this. However, what exactly is the role of youth in politics in question? Is it enough for the youth's interest in political issues, or is it direct involvement, such as joining a political party or work within the scope of government? Thank you.
Can I answer the question, Nena?
Mr. Ade, please.
Okay, thank you, Nurul Hidayah from HI South Sulawesi. It's an important question. Yeah, we worry about the number of youth participation in the politics now, and also we worry about their interesting, their focus with their political focus because politics is not really in their agenda now. Politics is like not interesting for the youth now. They are really happy if they are meet and discuss with their friend, but not happy to discuss about the politics because too many perspective about the politics now, and too many soul about the politics, and too many drama about the politics, and so that's why the youth is not really think it's not important to talk and discuss about the politics, especially for join and involved in the politics. And so that's why Sarekat Hijau Indonesia think to take back and focus of the politics for the youth, and step to increase youth capacity, especially for the HSI or Sarekat Hijau Indonesia members. And first, we try to establish a Green Political School since 2016, but in the fact, we also have a problem with the number of youth participation. And so that's why we try to discuss with the university, and we think that's one and the best solution for to spend the more youth number participation. We working and collaboration with the university in Indonesia to help some of seminars, some of workshops, some of the extraordinary to bring extraordinary teacher or lecture from the international. We have a relation or networking, and to increase the participation of the youth. And now the important is the youth not anymore think to important to read a book. They're happy to see and watch some of drama in the Instagram or in the TikTok, but they are not happy to read a book. And if we try to read a book, we can increase our skill and our capacity. And because the information still have in the book, and but the youth only important book after they got homework from the lecture. After that, they close the book and they hang out with the friends, some friends. And I think it's important is youth like you, Nurul Hidayah, and the others youth here to discuss about how to collaborate and join or discuss with your group, peer group, to have a peer group and to try to involve with the reading club and discuss about the politics, because we really need with youth with 2024. We don't like to old school politicians come back to our election in 2024. We need you as a new politician in Indonesia to bring a green value. It's like Akar's mentioned, it's like Suhi mentioned and Nick mentioned. And so that's why Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, supporting by the Asia Pacific Grand Federation, mentioned to youth everywhere as a member of APGF, as a member of organization in the world, try to discuss and involve in politics, because politics is can bring you to color change with the sum of issue, with the social issue, especially with the old school no have attention anymore with the new issue in Indonesia, especially. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ade. That's maybe
Nick, are you want to something? Because you raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, from Nick.
I don't have strong knowledge of how the youth are in Indonesia. I'm from Australia, but when I think about when I've studied youth and politics in the Middle East, especially, and when I look in Australia and in New Zealand and these places, I disagree with you a bit that young people are not interested in politics. From what I see, young people just engage with it differently. So in Australia in the past, maybe 50 years ago, if you were thinking much about politics, you joined a political party. This is not what young people do these days, but that does not mean that they are not interested in politics. Young people are involved in politics based on issues, not based on political parties or ideology. It is not like capitalism or socialism anymore. It is, do you support protecting a river? Or do you support increasing the wage? Or do you support maternity leave for women in industry or corporations? So they might not be joining a political party, but people are interested in the issues. It's like Akash was saying about being a candidate compared to activism. So in my experience, young people are very active in activism, just not so much in joining the political party. So one challenge for the Greens in Australia, in other countries, is how can we be seen to agree? And how can we provide a pathway for young leaders so that we can say, we agree with you, we think these issues are important, and we want to create space for you to demand this. And sometimes for older people like me, or for men like me, it involves not talking. It involves creating space for other people. So for example, when Suhi was talking about women's empowerment, that also means men have a role in feminism and men have a role in creating spaces. If you are a man and you think your sister or your mother or your daughter or a woman you are not related to should have the same rights that you have, create that space and demand it when other people are not giving it. Just like if you are an older person and you are seeing young people demanding political change, give them the political space. Allow them to be the leaders. Do not say, I am older, I know better. Stay behind, give them encouragement from behind, and support them to take that place. Because we will die. We are old, we will die, and we need the next generation to come. So let's support them, because they will live for longer and they will make more change than we can.
Okay, thank you. That's from Nick. And there's a question from Faisal Anwar Siregar to Mr. Akas Sriramoju. Okay. All of the situation that we have faced in this time, it's from the result of political decision. What are the factors that prevent people from participating in politics? And what are the steps taken from two aspects, namely the government to build a public participation in politics and the community itself?
Okay, can you repeat the question? What's the question over there?
Okay. What are the factors that prevent people from participating in politics? And what are the steps taken from two aspects? It's from build public participation in politics and community itself.
Okay. So as I see, there are various factors which will affect youth to get into the politics. The first factor, as I said, at the family level, if they come from a poor family or a marginalized group, they don't have enough connections, or they don't have enough capital to get into the politics at all. So first of all, if a person is coming from a poor family, they think about only lifting to safeguarding the family and looking for the monthly income, what they want to have. Even though they have a political aspiration, the youth, they may not be come and involved in a politics because there's no stable career or income which comes from the politics. If you are a genuine person, you can't become an entrepreneur or a politician because the poverty will be a barrier for you. And this is the one factor. Another factor is called which stops younger female to enter the politics is patriarchy culture, what we follow in the Asian countries mainly, and also elsewhere. And this is the one other factor. And the third factor is called like the system. What I said, the system itself creates an environment which mitigates a critical thinking. That's why the social consciousness or political consciousness of youth is not developed from the younger age. So when the school system and also university system has this open discourse about the issues we face in the society, issues the younger people or the females face in the society, then the younger generation will have that kind of critical thinking to analyze the situations what they're going through. So maybe these are the barriers which are stopping the younger people to enter into the politics. And what any government or any organization can do is like having the laws for representation of youth at the local bodies or state level or the national level as well. So that is the one thing. And also having a retirement age for the older people as well. Right now we can see there are so much of older politicians in the government who are not at all going after having 5 or 10 years of their term, they are not at all retiring from that position. So having a retirement age for the politics is also a good policy to have.
Okay, Mr. Akars, thank you. And the last, not last, a question from Ferdi Saputra to Mr. Chika Kamal Bandari. After we heard about Mr. Akas presenting the factor that prevent people, Ferdi is asking about what strategy that we can use to increase youth participation in politics.
Yes. As I was talking about the Nepali experience earlier, in city region, now we find that people are more focusing on the issue than career-based politics. So this time we have got our candidates contesting as an independent candidate. Is there was swing of vote going to independent candidate, and election was won by such party also. So our coalition works, but it didn't work for Nepali Greens. So what I mean is focusing in such area where the issue-based politics is now flourishing than career-based politics. Still, if we look for any political opportunities in our country, they said that we have contributed for 30 years or 40 years till now, and our turn now. So your turn will come after contributing for such long time. You can't wait for such. So it's like SHI was doing green school. We have done green camp earlier, and with green camp, we have brought so many youth leaders together, and we haven't restricted at that time that they can be from either our party only, but they can come from any party. And more than 150 youth were trained, and many of them are leading from other party to the local area, and at this moment they are raising green issues in their local area. So we are happy in a way that didn't supported Nepali Greens, but that supported the planet, that is supporting the country. So it, in some point they might join to Green Party also. So what I mean is our strategy should be aware these youth that their role should be to participate directly in the politics also. I was looking in the chat, like Sui was suggesting reaching out abroad as well as standing in election, which will give you the perspectives of how you feel yourself. So we are sometimes, as Akars mentioned earlier also, we are sometimes satisfied with simple livelihood, whatever we are getting with, but that is not what we youth really need to stick on. And just being out of the career-based politics to issue-based politics, I think we can bring youth together for the politics, and changes in every sectors wherever they will involved with, not only in politics, even if they will go to the bureaucracy, if they will go to university, because we are bound with some trend of tradition and some trend of having things going on as usual. So changes will not happen without some movement, and that movement will be possible by awareing these youths with such green school, green camps, and involving them and them in the action.
Thank you, Mr. Tika Kamal Bandari. That's such a good answer. And just maybe Mrs. Soraya, can I have one question for Nick?
Sure, please, Mrs. Zainab.
Okay, for Nick Cooper, there's a question from Viveka Nanta. How to raise the spirit of pragmatic young adults in the digital era? As we know, young adults in this digital era are more interested in cyberspace. They prefer games like social media, which for a long time makes all young people even more lazy.
Thank you for the question. I'm not sure it does. Social media and cyberspace is incredibly powerful. It can be a tool for organizing, it can be a tool for information, it can be a tool for campaigning. In many countries, something we have seen over the past 10 years is political parties spend less money on television and radio advertising and more money on social media, because this is where young people are. Social media also means that your campaigning and your organizing can be back and forward. It is an exchange. It is not just you yelling out and hoping someone listens. You can actually have a conversation. So yeah, some people are lazy, not just young people, some old people as well. I don't think social media is automatically a problem. I think it is a tool like anything else. There is also the principle that to be effective, you go where the people are. So if the young people are on social media, you should go on social media and do your campaigning there. You can also create really good opportunities for young people through social media and things to do your social media if you are a political party. The Australian Greens in the election last year had some young Greens and the Australian Greens just said, here, you do our social media. And it was hilarious. It was very funny. It was very funny to young people. But because young people were the target of the campaign, it was very effective. And they would create Facebook posts and Instagram posts and things that older people didn't understand, but the young people were really connected to. It is very difficult for old people to write content and political messages that young people find interesting. So create a space for young people to create content that young people find interesting. If we're going to think about how to get people involved, we have to make it interesting for them to get involved.
Thank you, Nick. That's last question for all the session. And then we have come to the conclusion. Indonesian population is dominated by resident age 15 to 30 years old, where this age is included in youth and productive age category. Therefore, youth have an important role in political activity in a country. So that politics must be well designed to create and provide space for youth to be actively involved. Discourse on the role of women cannot be separated from the involvement of women in political activities. Okay, democracy will not be achieved if there is no equality between men and women in public space. Many problems haunt women as such as misogyny issues, sexual violence, and patriarchy. However, this does not mean that women's issue only belongs to women, but are problem for all parties. For this reason, the Asia Pacific Green Federation, together with Sarekat Hijau Indonesia, is here to encourage the role of youth in politics, because politics does not only belong to a handful of groups and elites at this time, but also group especially youth. Okay, so for the last is, why do we have to increase the capacity of young people? Because we need to change the traditional politic mindset, especially in Indonesia, which still revolves around money and interest politics. Green politics is a solution that can make our politics more progressive, clean, and involve women, because it is based on increasing support and solidarity. So this is the time for young people to step into politics with all new ideas and different point of view. Okay, that's for the seminar. I will giving it back to Mrs. Soraya.
Well, thank you very much for very outstanding discussions about today's international seminar. And thank you very much for Mrs. Moderator and also the invited speakers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's the time for us to reach at the end of today's agenda. It's such an honor for us to be conducting this international seminar run very smoothly. And I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Dr. Dadan Ramdan, to Dr. Eviati Juliana Hasibuan, to Mrs. Ade Indriani Zuhri, to Mr. Hendra Hasibuan, to Mrs. Senap, to Mrs. Dr. Novita Wulandari, to Mr. Uriel Arif Lubis, to Mr. Nick Cooper, Mrs. Sohili, Mr. Tika Kamal Bandari, Mr. Akarsh, and Mrs. Ade Indriani Zuhri, and all the steering committees and participants who have made this seminar possible to be successful. Hopefully, this international seminar will provide us with pivotal information and knowledge about the role of youth in democracy and politics, learning from Asia Pacific countries. Also, we do hope that from this seminar, the spirit of Indonesian youth could raise and spread to develop this country's democracy and politics field toward advance and excellency. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all about international seminar for today. Thank you very much for your attendance, participations, and attention to this international seminar. We do apologize for any inconvenience that may be occurred during this seminar. Hopefully, we can meet again in the near future seminar. I am Soraya Dinamika, and all the steering committee and boards of University of Medan Area signing out. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Goodbye, everyone. Nick, goodbye.
Thank you.
Kamal.
Bye. Thank you.
Nick,
Thank you very much, everyone.
Suhi, and Akar, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
participation
Thank you,
as a speaker.
Okay, such a beautiful.
Thank you, Mr. Tika Kamal. Thank you, Mrs. Suhili. Thank you, Mr. Akarsh. Thank you, Nick. Ibu Zainab, everyone.
Ya,
Thank you
Ibu
very
Soraya,
much.
terima kasih.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.